Okay, good afternoon. Thanks everybody for joining us for the Encore Financial Statements webinar. My name is Brian. I'll be your presenter this afternoon. Let me just get my PowerPoint ready here. So just some housekeeping measures while we're waiting. So this is the Jonas Encore General Ledger Financial Statements webinar. During the webinar, your phones are going to be muted by myself so that, it's one person speaking instead of everybody all at once. There is a chat box feature in the WebEx where you can send messages out if you want to send it to everybody so that everybody can, keep track of some of the questions. I'll try and answer them as we go along, or if it's maybe something that's a little more relevant later on, I'll answer it then. It also depends on how many I get and if it's directly related or if it's kind of on a tangent, I may, address it separately. And then right now we're actually recording this, so they'll be available online to download in a PDF and video version for future reference. So webinars, what exactly are they? They're meant more to enhance your knowledge of the software as a refresher more than actual training, okay? Nothing really takes the place of detailed training by a trainer like myself. So approximately 50 minutes of information with 10 minutes for questions and answers, so an hour total. That does fluctuate quite a bit depending on, how many questions, things like that as we go. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's the full 60 minutes. So GL financial statements. So what are we talking about? How to create financial statements, things like your balance sheets, your income statements, cash flow statements, things like this. So there's a couple parts involved with it. There's the financial statement line design, and then there's the financial statement report design. So what do those two parts entail? Good news, bad news, the reverse signs, and other settings. Percentage groups, this is one that's actually not utilized very much, but it's a nifty feature to have. How do you clean up your financials with edits and settings? How do you put packages together, and what are the drill down features in the financials? So these are the topics we're going to cover. So the first part is the financial statement line design. So in Encore, you're in GL, and under your setups, there's the financial statement line design, and then there's the financial statement report design. So we're looking specifically at the line design. So what exactly is it? How does it work? So each line design, like most things in Encore, needs what's called a quick access code, or as we refer to it, a QAC. It's almost like an internal SKU number for something, an identifier number. So this will be a short form identifier for the design. What does that mean? It means when you're looking it up, it's how the system identifies the actual line design or layout of the rows that you want to include in the statement. So it's how it identifies it. So if it's 1, 2, 3, it's going to list them out 1, 2, 3. If it's ABC, it'll list them out ABC, so on and so forth. It needs a description. So there's the income, for example, income statement, balance sheet, pro shop income statement, food and beverage income statement. Usually something that identifies the area that's being covered and what type of statement it is. Then there's the report type. You select, is it a balance sheet, is it an income statement, is it a departmental income statement, or is it other? So obviously there's a note there, so you have to note that departmental income statements can only be used if the club has set up departments in Encore. So if you've created just the primary segments and no departments to attach to it, so you have account 1, 2, 3, 4, but you don't have department 1 or 2 or 3, it's not going to work for the departmental income statement. So the audible flag, what is that? Only if every account will be included in the line design for the report type. If this auditable flag box is flagged, the line design can't be saved unless all accounts are on the design, and that's for transparency reasons. So if it's something like your balance sheet and you're going to include every account on it and you want to be able to have it audited, basically, you have that option. Okay, but if you have every account except one on there, for example, it will not let you do it. It locks in every account on that statement. Now, so you choose your chart of accounts or primary segments for the line detail. So what does this mean? Well, if you have departments in Encore, so your account code format there in the example is your company code, your primary segment, and then the department segment. So it's going to use primary segments or chart of accounts. If you're not using departments in Encore, you can only use chart of accounts. So this confuses a lot of people. The way I try and simplify it is the primary segment is the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the account number. The department is the -10 or -20, for example. So primary segments will pull anything to do with 1, 2, 3, 4, no matter what departments are associated. If it's a chart of account, it'll pull 1, 2, 3, 4-10 specifically, or 1, 2, 3, 4-20 specifically, but you have to tell it which ones. So on the other side of that, if you're not using departments, obviously the primary segment's not going to work because all you have is your chart of accounts. You just have account 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 6, so on and so forth. So here's an example from the Encore system. So what it was talking about, there's the quick access code, BAL detail. So obviously it's referring to a detailed balance sheet. Description, balance sheet, pretty straightforward. Your report type, that's where you'd select, income statement, departmental income statement, balance sheet, so on and so forth. And then auditable, that's the flag where if you're going to include every account associated with that type of report and you're not going to change it, you can flag that, but it's going to lock those in, okay? Line detail, that's where it was talking about primary segments versus chart of accounts. Primary segments, again, means it's going to pull 1, 2, 3, 4 mainly. If you're using chart of accounts, that's when you have to tell it 1, 2, 3, 4 dash whatever, or just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, so on and so forth. And then there's your active flag. So the active flag is turn it on, turn it off, just like that. So next, there's the financial statement line design. So edit the design layout. So there's 3 areas of the screen. If you recall, when you probably first saw it, it was pretty overwhelming, which it is. But the idea is that you can pull any kind of information you need into your financials, but you have to tell the system what you're looking for. So it can be a little overwhelming, but it gives you pretty much anything and everything you could need to work with to be able to select financials that you want, okay? So in the line design, the edit design layout, there's 3 parts to the screen. The left panel is accounts for selection. It's your list of accounts. So if it's your balance sheet, that's where you're going to find your assets, your liabilities, equity, so on and so forth. The middle panel is the line design panel, as they call it. That's really your working screen. That's where you use your drag and drop, you group your accounts, you consolidate accounts. It's your worksheet, basically. On the right side is a preview panel where you can actually preview the report. It does get a little tight space-wise depending on the size of your screen, I've noticed. So most of the time I'll suggest there is a flag on the top of the screen to turn on or off the preview. And if you need a little more space, turn off the preview for the time being while you're doing your work, and then you can always turn it back on to see how it looks, okay? So the next screen is actually a screenshot of it. So you can see here, there's the accounts that you can select from on the left. There's your worksheet in the middle, and then the preview pane on the right. And there's actually a newer feature in here now where you can turn on or off the preview. It'll be right around here, and usually it'll be in orange because it's turned on. If you click on it, it'll actually hide the left or the right-hand pane, and you can hide the left-hand pane as well. So if you need more space to do work, that's one way to save it, okay? So now, accounts for selection. How does this work? So accounts that are shaded gray generally, it depends how good the color scheme is on your computer system, but accounts that are shaded are those accounts that are already in the report, okay? So as a default, all the accounts are going to go into the design, okay? So when you run your balance sheet, again, as an example, all the assets are going to go in, all the liabilities are going to go in, all the equities are going to go in. So how does it know how to sort them? Well, way back when the system was set up, and maybe changed a little bit throughout, but they're going to be pre-grouped according to the GL settings of the account type and the subtype. So remember, you created a cash account, it's an asset, and it's a cash subtype. Well, what it's going to do is take all those assets, put them into one group, but then it's going to go, okay, these are all cash, they go on their own. These are all AR, they go on their own. These are all inventory, they go on their own, so on and so forth. That's how it knows how to group the accounts on those financials. Now, that doesn't mean it's set in stone that you have to do that. Obviously, as you know, you can move them around, you can change things, but that's how it defaults to start with. So if you've laid out your accounts well as far as account types and subtypes, generally it's trying to make it easier for you. Now, to start from a blank slate on your financial screen, if you don't, you just want to wipe it all out, start from scratch, and do your financial from there, you're going to click Clear Grouping. That's going to remove all accounts from the middle panel or from the worksheet, okay? Now, before moving accounts, create the groups required. A lot of times, I find that users will create a group, put all their accounts in, things like that, get, 3/4 of the way through and figure out, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have done that. Because then you get into the problem of, and as you know, when you try and drag and drop things, it can be a little confusing sometimes. So do the groundwork first, then put the accounts in. Because you know what accounts are going to go in, so create your groups first, okay? And so, for your totals, such as net income, total expenses, total revenues. So these, you can see that it's there in bold. These must be created first. It makes your life so much easier if you do it that way. Then click on Group. Leave the heading blank if no title is required, because it asks you, title of or description of the group, your print total, description, things like that. And then you choose your line formatting, where you can say, use a single line above the total and use the double line below, or use dotted lines, things like that. And then you click the green check mark to save. So I'm going to show you a screenshot here. So this here. So you have your type right here, which is your group, your description, reverse sign we'll talk about a little bit later on. Do you want it to print a total or not print a total? Do you want to insert a page break after this group? And then your total description. What do you want it to say at the bottom? So you can see here there's no description in there, but there's a net income, because that's going to be the last line of your statement, net income. So you don't have to put a description in at the top. It makes it less confusing when the financial prints out. And then you have your underline to print before the total and what to print after the total, and then the percentage groups, which again we'll get into a little bit later on, okay? So what do? You complete the steps for as many different totals as are required. So again, total revenue, total expenses, total operating, total member revenue, so on and so forth. Then you drag the groups into each other as required. So as an example, drag the total revenues and total expenses into the net income. So since revenues less expenses equals the total net income. So what you do is you create your net income group, you create a total revenue group, you create a total expense group, take the revenue and the expense, put it inside of the net income, and that's how the system knows, in order to get this total, I have to take A minus B. Okay? Now to drag items into another, click the item to move and hold the mouse to drag over until the desired account it goes in is bolded but not underlined. So this is where a lot of people run into some trouble, which I understand it's not necessarily the most user-friendly, but the idea is, again, it's designed to give you as much free range as possible to get as much information as possible that you might need. So think of it this way. When you click and drag the account that you want to move, when you get to the group that you want to put it in, it jumps out at you. So it goes into really big bolded letters. If you see a line below that, what it's gonna do is default to right above it. If you see no line and it's just a big bold word, then it's gonna go into it. So that, it takes practice really to get used to it. Some people find it very easy, some people find it harder, but it just takes practice to get into. So again, here's another screenshot so you can see there's the net income, there's total expenses and total revenues from bottom to top at the top of the screen. Now right now they're three separate groups, and notice how all three are the same indent. They're not within each other as needed yet. So the system is thinking it's three separate groups, and it's going to give a total for A for the total revenues, a total for expenses, and then a total for net income, but we need it to do something more. So the bottom left here, you can see now it's set up to actually calculate the net income. So they moved revenues inside of the net income and expenses inside of the net income. How do you know? We'll see those little file folder images there. So notice how revenue and expense are indented a little bit right below it. That's how you know it's within that group. And what's the result? If you look over on the right-hand side, it gives you a preview. So there's your total revenues with the line above and below, your total expenses with the line above and below, and then your net income with a line above and a double line below. So that's how you know it's actually creating a total, okay? So now, note that now the groups within net income make up the total. Obviously, see the panel above or before. So once all the total groups have been created and ordered, the individual accounts can be dragged from the left-hand panel where there's the list of accounts to the middle working panel. So you click on the account or use the Shift key to highlight multiple accounts. So this is something else that people tend to forget. They kind of look at it and go, oh my God, how am I going to move all these accounts? Let's say you have to move 100 accounts. If you click on account number 1, you scroll down to account 100, hit Shift, and click on 100, it'll take accounts 1 to 100, highlight all of them, and move them all together, okay? So there are shortcuts to make it a little faster. Once you've got them all highlighted, you drag them onto the middle panel into the group it belongs. So how do you do this? You do this by clicking and dragging until the desired account is bolded but not underlined. So again, it's the whole, if it jumps out at you and there's no line, it's going to go in that group. If it jumps out at you and there's a line below it, then it's going to jump above it on the statement. So how does this look? So you can see here. So that tells you that it's going to go inside of the inside of that grouping. There's no line below that. There's just big jumping out at you, no heading, total R for total revenue, obviously. And you can see where membership regular account number 984000-10 is now inside of that. So they obviously put that account into the total revenues, okay? So to move items within a group, example, reordering the accounts within total revenues, click on the account line to move and drag to the desired spot. The account that goes above should be bolded and underlined. So this is where the underline comes in. The underline basically means I'm going to bump this above it. So it's like the old, Pong game, I guess, where it bounces off that and goes above. So you can see here, 984012-10 is in big letters and there's an underline below it. That means that whatever you're highlighting and moving is going to go above that line. So let's say you want to move that membership clubhouse fees, 984015-10, that's highlighted a bit in blue. You want to move that above there. So you click on membership clubhouse fees, drag it up to where account 012-10 is, and you'd want to see that underline above. And what that's going to do is pop it just above there. So it'll end up below account 984011 and above 984012, okay? So from the above example, account 984015-10 is being moved above 98401210, and that's determined by the bolded and underlined. So continue to drag accounts, reorder, etc., until all desired accounts are contained on the financial statement. So it does take some time, it takes some sorting, move things how you want to see them. and get them just right. Now, consolidation of accounts, because you're probably saying at this point, well, I don't need to see every single line. I have certain ones that I want to see them together, like Pro Shop revenue. Let's say you didn't want to necessarily see greens fees and carts and shirt sales and so on and so forth all together. How do I get it to just tell me what the Pro Shop's bringing in? So this is where consolidation of accounts works. So a feature of line design is the consolidation ability. Consolidation takes multiple accounts and consolidates them into a single line with one description. So to consolidate, what you're going to do is click on the first account to be included in the consolidation from the middle working panel. Use the Control or Shift key to select all the other accounts to include in the consolidation until all the lines you want are highlighted. Then you click on the Group button at the top of the screen. Change the type to Consolidate. So you know where before it said Group, you can actually change that to Consolidate. And then you're going to enter a description for the consolidated line. Then you're going to choose whether to reverse the sign or insert a page group. So make a note that you cannot put a total or total description because the consolidation is a line total itself. So think of it this way. It's taking account 1, 2, 3, and 4, putting it as one line on your statement with one description. So it'll do the math. So if 2 of them are, $400 in the positive and 2 of them are $100 in the negative, it'll show you the difference being the $600 as one line on the statement. And then you just click the green check mark and it does the work. So you can see here on the line design here, it's got membership dues and it's being done as one line. So account 984000 and 11 and 12 and 10 and 15 and 13 and 14 there are actually all showing up as one line. So it takes whatever the difference or the addition is for that and shows it as one line on the statement, which you can see on the right. It just says membership dues, here's your amount. So make a note that all of the individual lines have been consolidated into a single line so that on the financial statement only one line appears. The working screen middle panel will still show all the items in the consolidation individually so that it can be seen what is contained in the consolidation line. That's just really long-winded, meaning that even though it shows as one line on the statement, on your worksheet, you're going to be able to see what all's in there because you might need to take something out or move something around. You need to be able to see it. So on the worksheet, you're always going to get the long form. On the actual statement is where you see everything consolidated, okay? So percentage groups. Percentage groups are actually a good feature that we have that I've noticed not everybody is really making use of. So what is a percentage group? So percentage groups are used to show any line items as a percentage of a total. So to create a percentage group, you click Percentage Groups tab at the top of the line designer screen. You enter a description in the first gray line on the left-hand side, click the star to the left of the description. We'll see some screenshots to make it a little more visual for you. Then the middle plane will display accounts available to add to the percentage group. So make a note, if you are selecting the accounts to be included in the denominator bottom of the percentage calculation, example, to get something as a percent of total sales, a total sales percentage group is required. The total sales percentage group would have all of the revenue accounts selected as part of the denominator. And then you click and select using Shift key multiple accounts and click the green arrow to move them to the right panel, the account selected one. So green accounts indicate that they are available to be selected. Gray accounts indicate that they have already been added to the selection. Then navigate back to the Edit Line Design tab. So what does it look like? Here you go. So there's your percentage group, total revenues. So you can see gray's already been added, green's available to add, and then you do your account selected, okay? So for total revenues, we want to know, everything from account number 984020 all the way through 985400, and you can see that the accounts selected are on the right-hand side there, okay? So green means it's available, gray means it's in there, but you can do multiple accounts or multiple groups, so as many as you want to do. Total, iron sales as a percentage of the pro shop sales, total alcohol sales as a percentage of F&B sales, things like that, or F&B sales as a percentage of total sales, for example. So now that the percentage group can be utilized in the line designer, you click on the account that should be the numerator in the percentage calculations. For example, membership revenue as a percentage of total sales, click on the membership revenue account. Do this for all the accounts that should have a percentage calculation. Then close and save once out of the designer screen. So pretty straightforward. You've set the bottom half. Now you got to tell it what to look for, okay? So now, financial statement report design. So remember, the line design basically tells it the rows, the information you want. The report design tells it how you want to see it, really. That's kind of how it boils down. So once the line design is completed, financial statement report design is the next step to completing the financial statement. Reason being, you want to sort out the information you need in the report first, then worry about how you want to see it or what time frames you want to pull for it after. So you're going to open the financial statement report designer. You're going to click new and create a quick access code and description for the financial statement. Most of the time, people end up using the same quick access code and same description as the row design. Makes it easier to find A and A, right? So then you're going to choose the line design to use. This will be the line design you just created. Then you're going to flag suppress zero value lines if you wish to omit line items that have a zero balance. So if it works out to zero or there's no activity, you want to leave it out, you flag suppress zero value. If you want to see it as a zero sum line on your statement, just leave it unchecked. And then you click Edit Design to modify the column appearance of the report. So here's a screenshot of it. So again, needs a quick access code. Income statement in this case needs a description, income statement, and you can see there the line design, income statement, detail with the description, and it does pull both the QAC and the description together. Is it active? Yes. Do they want to suppress zero value lines on this one? No, they do not. And then you can see at the bottom, edit design and edit formatting. Edit formatting is things like title, group headings, total lines. Do you want to see italics? Do you want to see bold? Do you want a bigger font or a different font? Things like that. Whereas the edit design is the actual design of the report itself or the time frames. So here's a screenshot of the actual selections you have. So you can see there's actuals, there's budget, there's forecast, there's calculation, there's a percentage of total for a column, and then there's budget total year and budget total last year. So as you can see, it usually as a default, we've got month to date last year, quarter to date last year, year to date last year. Last year means it goes back one period, so 12 months, the same quarter last year, or year to date for this time last year. So the edit design offers multiple column types to select from on the left-hand side. The middle panel, again, is the working area, and the right-hand panel is the column properties section now, so it's changed a little bit. So you choose the column headings from the left-hand panel, click and drag onto the middle panel. Pretty straightforward. You don't have to click and drag, actually, you can double-click. So if you want actual month to date, just double-click it, it'll put it on the next column heading. So you want to click and drag, or you can double-click to rearrange the, actually, not when you have to click and drag, to rearrange the order of the columns. So including the line item column. And then you click on each header to change features about the column. So what are some of those features? So you can change heading 1 and heading 2 descriptions. So instead of it saying actual month to date, you can have this year MTD, for example. Change column width. The more columns you have on your report, the narrower columns will need to be. The default is 110, as acceptable width can be as low as 60. Okay, so you can have very thin columns so you can get more in, but keep in mind there is a finite amount of space on the paper, and it'll flag you when you get to a point where you're going to throw it into a landscape format, and you can actually do that in the edit formatting as well. So you can change the format of the values, negatives, decimal preferences, etc., and you can choose the months back if applicable. So this means a month-to-date column printed for February with a month back of 1 would contain January, 1 month back of February, so on and so forth. 1 year ago, 1 quarter ago, same thing. So for calculation columns, you're probably looking at that trying to figure out what it was. So you enter the formula in the field provided. The formula should be in the form of column letters. Example, column A minus column B, or A minus B divided by B, or A plus B, sort of like Excel without the equals sign needed, okay? And yes, you can do complex ones. Obviously, A minus B divided by B, for example, will give you column A minus B divided by whatever the total of B is. So here's some screenshots for it. So at the top here, you can actually see where it's got the calculation header highlighted. So like we were saying, actual month to date dash LY, calculation, percent column, things like that. You can change those headers where it says properties D calculation. There's heading 1, heading 2 in the bottom left corner, and then there's the column width. So you can actually go and change that from calculation to say, you know, total revenue for operation for the compared to last year type thing, okay? So you have to obviously be careful with your titles because there is a finite amount of space again. So sometimes you might have to get a little creative with that. Now, if you look at the format there, if you open that up, there's a default is non-applicable, but you can see here, there's a bunch of examples. Positive with 2 decimals, reverse sign, parentheses with 2 decimals, parentheses, reverse sign, things like that. So that's the actual formatting of the result. So for calculation columns, you enter the formula in the field provided. Should be in the form of column letters, like we talked about. And then you use the Edit Formatting button to change the font style and size on various report sections, as well as other report formatting options such as headers, footers, page margins and orientation, export to Excel options, and more. So that's where you, and I'll show you a screenshot of it here. So it'll usually divide it up: report name, general options, column headings, account description and consolidated lines, account description and consolidated line details, the group headings and total descriptions, the totals, and the margins. So this is where you can change things like, do you want it to be landscape instead of portrait? Do you want the report name to be a bigger font size? Do you want your account description and consolidated lines to have a bigger font? Do you want the detailed lines to be different? Do you want the total descriptions to have a different font or be bold or italic, things like that. So once you've got your statements kind of put together, you know, as I'm sure all of you do, you have, you know, board meetings or committee meetings or things like this where they want packages. They want to see the balance sheet and the income statement, or with the departmental income statements, things like that. And you don't want to have to go through each and every time and have to run every one and print them off. So we have what's called the financial statement packages. So they're used to group multiple financial statements together for easier printing of numerous reports in one click. So first thing you got to do, enter a description for the financial statement package. Then you choose whether to use continuous page numbers. If not checked off, each report will begin with a new numbering system. On the left-hand side, there are all available statements to choose from. You double-click the desired report and it adds it to the actual package. You use the green up and down arrows to reorder the selected financial statements. So if they want to see balance sheet first, income statement second, so on and so forth, you can move it up and down how you want to present them. And then you click Save when finished. Then the financial statement package is now available for use and can be generated via financial statements. So what does this look like? So you can see here, they're doing an example for operating statements, and you can see it's active. They're not going to use continuous page numbers, so each one's going to be its own numbering system. Page 1, page 2, then it starts again, page 1, page 2, page 3, then it starts again, page 1, so on and so forth. And you can see the available financial statements are all there in green: balance sheet 1, balance sheet 2, balance sheet 12-month, income statement 1, income statement 2. On the right-hand side is the selected financial statements that are in there already. And you can see there's the green arrow pointing to the right to move it over. You can also double-click and it just drops it in. There's the clear all button that has a little recycling symbol on it, and then the green arrows up and down will move the reports into the order you want. That's the only place you can do it. So if you try and run it in financial statements and you see the tabs that generate, can't move those up and down. This is where you have to do it, okay? So to generate financial statements for exporting or printing purposes, you click on financial statements in the GL module. So again, you're in GL. Financial statements is under your reports. And then you're going to choose the date, the month, and the fiscal year, really. Choose whether to report by financial statement or financial statement packages. It's a little drop-down feature where it says financial statements. If you have a package put together, that's the next option down. Choose either the report or package by checking the box and then click Generate, like most reports in Encore. Once the financial statement is generated, the drill down icon can be used to condense and expand the report. For example, the report can be condensed into totals only, total revenue, cost of goods sold, expense, and then you click the export or print button to either export or print a hard copy of the report. So what does this look like? So you can see in here, clicking on the plus symbols opens the report into line-by-line view. So this is an example of an income statement for Laurie Golf Club for July of 2014. You can see there's your total revenues, there's your total cost of goods, there's your total expense, but it's all condensed. If you hit one of the plus signs like they did for revenue, opens it up, operational revenue, membership revenue, so on and so forth. So at this time, I'm going to open up the phone lines for any questions or anything. I didn't see any questions come through on the chat box while we were talking, so if you have any, now's the time. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, if nobody has any questions, then we'll end that. We'll end the webinar for now, and thank you for attending. If again, if you do have any questions or anything, there's our support lines. There's our support website. If it's a matter of training, we have our training department, and we'll always be happy to help you. Thank you for attending. Have a good afternoon.